Arctic Monkeys are back with their 7th studio album, The Car. Alex and Matt are joining me in the studio right now to talk through the whole entire thing. Gentlemen, welcome to Radio 1. It's nice to have you back talking about this brand new record,
Oh, it is.
The Car.
Can't believe it. Can't believe my eyes.
I think it'd be quite nice to kind of set the scene for everyone about when this album was recorded. I don't think it's as a stark departure from Arctic Monkey sound as people might think, right?
No, yeah, I agree. I think it's we've always tried to sort of naturally go somewhere else, but it also picks up where the other one left off in a way, and we've always tried to do that a little bit, and it's anything other than that feels a bit forced. So I think it is, yeah, I think it all makes sense as a journey.
How did you go about looking for that light bulb moment, I suppose, with this one? So when did that come for you, Matt?
It's hard to pinpoint the moment just because of the way it was. Like, a lot of it was put together like after the fact. We had like all these elements to like make into a record. So yeah, when like while we were doing it, there wasn't like the, oh, we've got it now. It's sort of,
Yeah, I think we were on tour like 2019, sort of spring times, where we'd finished touring and we'd been playing for a couple of years on that Tranquility album, and I thought we were going to go in and make like a rock record, and that was the idea, you know, like we'd been playing shows, playing Are You Mine, finishing every night on that, and it's like, let's go and try and make something that could like hang with that. And by the time we got to the studio at the end of that year, the feeling was like, what were we on about? Like, you know, it's not like,
didn't feel
it's
right.
not possible. Yeah, it's just not. It's just any sort of attempts you've made to kind of even move in that direction sort of almost feel a bit like a spoof or something at this point. But that's not to say, I think there is like that band, like the rock band, is in there on this record.
I think there were at points maybe some moments where my heart was like, oh, hang on a second, from things that you'd said within the lyrics. And I think those moments come a little bit later on in the album. But I think when it comes to Mirrorball, that opening line, don't get emotional, is that as much as it is to maybe the fans as it is the actual subject matter of the album?
I would certainly say when I'm writing that, I'm amused by that, because it's definitely directed at myself saying that, and I think it seemed amusing to me that would be the line that would follow the musical passage that just like has gone, you know, like the introduction to it. I feel like it was kind of a reaction to the feel of that piece of music that like precedes it.
I guess it's the inner workings of how you feel trying to write another Arctic Monkeys album, essentially. You've clearly found an enjoyment in this style and are enjoying this era of Arctic Monkeys.
yeah.
Why do you enjoy it so much? What is it about this kind of creativity within this music that you're liking so much?
I don't know if there's like one particular thing about it. I think it's part of it is just having the ability to like realize ideas in this way, and it is fun to like see how far you can take that. And there's some songs on this record, like you say, would be sort of they like make sense following that record, but then it's gone on a bit further,
And you all feel like you're pushing yourself.
I think so, yeah, but it's not as if that is kind of part of the criteria or something for trying to make something. It's maybe you obviously naturally you're pushing yourself into sort of playing in a different way sometimes, but it feels like it's because it's required by the thing you've written rather than to sort of demonstrate some like technical improvement or something. It just feels like if anything like that, I think it's always just about what does it feel like.
The album lends a new challenge to performing live, I'd imagine, as well for you guys. At the moment, you've trialled a few tracks from the album. How are you finding that they fit into the live set? You were speaking earlier how, you know, perhaps if we put Mirrorball next to Do I Want to Know, it doesn't quite work, but...
Yeah, no, that is... I mean, we kind of already run into them, like that puzzle, doing a set list anyway at this point, even... And with the last record, obviously, that was a thing. But it also makes some of the older songs make more sense as well within the set. And it is something we like think about a lot, like how to structure that and how to like fit these ones into it. And obviously still playing the ones you want to play without playing for like 3 hours, because there's a lot to choose from now. But like, yeah, and recently as we've been like developing live versions of these songs, it's been, yeah, it like a challenge definitely, but it's a lot of fun to like pull it off.
Arctic Monkeys and Sculptures of Anything Goes on Radio 1. We were talking how this track actually probably has DNA back to AM. I perhaps almost feel like it's got a bit of DNA towards 505 as well, with those sinister sort of organ sound in there. I think probably, I don't know, how do you feel about Humbug being thrown in there?
I was hoping you were going to say Humbug.
Yeah. I really, really love that song. I think it's one of my favourites from the record. The Moog into the pedal is very, very naughty. Very naughty. Who had that idea?
I think we got Jamie Cook was responsible for that.
Cap.
Yeah. That was a good moment.
Kind of wired that one up.
Was that a little light bulb moment for this track?
I think so. Yeah. It went on a journey that took it totally away from how it started off not a million miles away from, like, imagine sort of a prototype version of that sound it's been better realised how we hear it now, but in between those then and now, it kind of became, 6 other versions of the song, and kind of came back to the drum machine through the Moog sort of thing.
Sculptures of Anything Goes ends with the almost alarm at the end, very reminiscent perhaps of how you guys came out during the Tranquility tour. Also the promos as well.
That sound a bit like that, doesn't it? I hadn't put that together actually.
So not on purpose, but
we don't even know we're doing it
subconsciously. What are you doing?
Inexplicably linked.
I guess though, visuals are a very important part. Not only to Tranquility, of course, but the car too. And Body Paint is coming up, and we'll dive into those around then. But Matt, the image of jet skis on the moat perhaps suggests that we're back down to earth after Tranquility.
Yeah, exactly. But really not down to earth.
No,
if we're on jet skis in a moat.
Rather obnoxious, really. Yeah,
it is. It does paint a nice picture, though.
It does, and I like the line. What is it? Sabutio cloak.
Yeah.
Are you thinking like the green pitch, Matt, round the shoulders?
Exactly. Yeah, because
you're the
only one who's got it.
Yeah. In terms of using visuals within your music, that's really started to be prevalent since Tranquility. How have you found visuals can help you tell the story of your albums?
Yeah, with the visuals, Brooke Linda directed the Body Paint video, and I think did a fantastic job. And it really feels for me like it all sits and it's all pulling in like the right direction.
I have to know, did he just hire the helicopter just for that?
I mean,
he must have done
just to get the crop circle shot.
Crop circle shot. Yeah. I guess within the video, going back to perhaps maybe the isolation or the loneliness within there, you guys all appear as individuals through the video. We don't actually really see you together. The film reel falls off. It glides over to you on the drums, Matt.
Yeah.
And I didn't know if maybe that was a suggestion of things that perhaps it's not always plain sailing for you guys, and sometimes there are moments that are a little harder than others when you're in this band.
Interesting. And generally, I think we're pretty lucky. You know what I mean? We're like I'd say most of the time it has in terms of, we don't we haven't having like punch ups, and it's not, never
definitely
really
not
happened.
Suggesting punch ups. No.
Yeah, but so yeah, I think, and that's sort of quite unusual probably at this stage.
I guess being in this band though is probably at some points like a relationship, Matt. And Alex, you obviously describe things very romantically across this album, regardless of subject matter. You guys have been in this band so long together. There must be that element of, it's deeper than friends now. It's brothership. There's true love, perhaps, if you like.
There is true love, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the helpful part of it all, I suppose, which has always been the case. Like what, you know, like there's stuff outside of the band that we have in common to talk about and to do, which probably is the reason it hasn't fallen apart.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, the film reel is definitely still on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
absolutely. Track 6 on the album is the title track. This track, The Car, is this about relationships in some way? Is it about how perhaps being in the band affects relationships?
I don't know if it is. I suppose that inconveniently, it's the song that is the most mysterious to me. I think this is kind of out on its own in a new place, and for that reason is one of the ones that collectively everybody, like when we finished the record a year ago and we'd had the playback, that was the one when it finished that everybody sort of like looked around and was like, oh yeah, wow, we've moved somewhere else here.
There's never like a formula to follow.
Big Ideas on Radio 1 by Arctic Monkeys. This is an amazing song. I love this song.
Thank you.
Nice fun.
It's a track that I think feels quite clear in its narrative.
I think particularly this song, I mean, again, it's a case of there's this sort of instrumental section 2/3 of the way through that is probably one of the only moments I can remember on this record where it was, you know, an idea sort of struck me. And I can't remember that happening that many times with a melodic idea in the past, but I do sort of remember a moment and that sort of theme came in my head and I went and figured out what the notes were and recorded it. And then that existed for years before, and always with this idea in the back of my mind that like I'll get round to writing a song with that theme at some point. And I suppose that somewhere along the way, like, that had gone on for that long that I arrived at the idea that, you know, that idea could in fact kind of be the structure that you would like hold up that sort of
it could
tent,
come to life.
if you know what I mean. I think sometimes I feel as if certainly the first verse on that could almost be, there's a feeling I think throughout the record of there's a production going on in the background kind of thing, or like sometimes I sort of picture the director in the theatre seats during the day when they're like rehearsing and stuff, or like people, there's some essence of something that feels a bit like that going on.
I guess what we're learning is that actually this isn't so far removed from Tranquility in terms of how you've decided to go about this as well. You created something with Tranquility, and you've kind of done the same thing again here. Lyrics shouldn't be taken as literally as perhaps they seem.
It's really like not up to me to say. I don't know. It's just how it makes you feel, isn't it? And I think it's all that kind of.
Matt, I wanted to talk to you about your drumming on the record. And I guess drumming in this era. I mean, I guess through every album, it's you've pushed on and come forward with different ideas, and you know you're probably considered as one of the best, I'd say.
Well, that's nice of you to say.
How are you enjoying this era?
It's great. I mean, it's the process of like I said before, like realizing some of these ideas live has been fun as well, to try and like achieve what we did on the record in a different way slightly. But and yeah, it's just like it's sometimes like, well, it's all the time like important to just like do the appropriate thing to make like the best song you can, and that's like restraint as well sometimes, and like getting that right, and all the like, you know, like the rock band is still there, but like all the fast flashy stuff is sort of easier for me than doing what is on this record.
So this has pushed you then?
Yeah, it's definitely more of a challenge, because to be able to do that well like is probably the difficult bit. It's more subtle to like why it sounds good is something that like you have to sort of understand a bit more than just doing something like.
I guess the guitar, Matt, within Mr. Schwartz, it feels a little almost Led Zeppelin-y.
Oh yeah,
within there.
Oh yeah.
Was it?
Get a bit of that.
Was it a challenge? We've spoken about this a little bit in terms of how this album started as, maybe the idea of a rock record, and it's morphed into this. Was it a challenge to keep those rockier influences in their little kind of parts at points and fuse it together? Was that always a hard part to do?
I don't know. I suppose it had to be considered, like how that was going to happen, and without it being forced, like to try, like, oh, we need to remember to put like a loud guitar in this one. Like there were none of that, obviously. But I don't know if it was that conscious at the time.
And so we get to track 10, Perfect Sense. Keep reminding me that it ain't a race. When my invincible streak turns on to the final straight, that's what it takes to say goodnight. We've heard that, this album should never be taken totally literally. There is a concept behind it and another idea behind it. Is our star, considering perhaps where or when the end might be, or what it would take to get to that point?
Yeah, I suppose, and it is, isn't it? We're coming to the end of the record, I suppose, aren't we? So it feels appropriate.
Do you think this album, in general terms, is about perhaps not turning your back on the thing that made you who you are?
You sort of make these decisions about the record, following it in as it becomes what it wants to become, and that's all. The decision to follow that or not is based on an instinct that, or all our individual instincts combine, and that feels like it was the same process in 2005 when we were making records, and it's like listening to that instinct and that voice, and I don't feel as if that's really changed. That feels like a through line, a line through the whole thing.